If you walked the streets of ancient Rome in 100 AD, there was one job so shameful, people would spit in your face just for doing it. You couldn't step foot in a temple. You couldn't use a public bath. You had to yell to warn decent citizens to cross the street. You were lower than most slaves, but that job paid 20 times more than a school teacher. And powerful senators would get on their knees and beg the man who did it for mercy. Today we're uncovering the dirtiest, most hated, most essential jobs in all of ancient Rome. The invisible workers no history class talks about. The men who kept the entire empire running, while everyone pretended they didn't exist. Pause right now. Drop à comment. Guess which one paid the most? Poop collector, funeral worker, or executioner? I'll circle back at the end to see if you got it right. And if you love weird history that blows your mind, hit that thumbs up. It helps the algorithm push this out to more curious people. Let's set the scene fast. No boring textbook stuff. But you need these two facts for every twist in this video to hit. First, Rome was disgusting. 1 million people crammed into a city built for half that, narrow streets. 7-story apartment buildings stacked like sardine cans. 9 out of 10 Romans lived in these buildings, and almost none had running water, private toilets, or garbage pickup. People dumped their chamber pots straight out the window. Dead animals rotted in alleyways. Fish guts, spoiled food, human waste, all baking in the Mediterranean sun. Rome's famous Great Sewer only served the Forum and rich mansions. Regular people had nothing. Death was everywhere too. Plague, fire, street crime, gladiator games. Half of all kids died before age 10. Bodies would lie in the road for days if no one touched them. This wasn't the marble temple Rome you see in movies. This was a loud, crowded, absolutely filthy city. Second fact, your salary baseline. A normal, respected grammar teacher. An educated, literate man who taught kids to read, write, and math, made between 300 and 500 sesterces a year. Why so low? Most teachers were Greek-freed slaves. Supply was high, so wages stayed low. They had status and respect, but not much money. 300 sesterces was enough for a tiny apartment and a simple life. You wouldn't starve, but you'd never get rich. A common day laborer made even less, maybe 200 sesterces a year, if he worked every single day. Keep those numbers in your head. 300 to 500 for a teacher, 200 for a laborer. Every single job we talk about today destroys that number. And every single one came with the same price. Total social death. Let's start with the one that sounds the simplest. First up, the Stercorarius, the dung collector, the poop man of Rome. You probably think this was the lowest job in the city. You probably think it paid pennies, done only by the most desperate slaves. You'd be very, very wrong. Let's walk through a day on the job. Shift starts at 3 a.m., long before sunrise. Long before the Forum fills up, before the first wealthy citizen puts on his toga. A guy named Marcus, a former slave who worked his way up to crew leader, pulls on a thick, stained tunic he'll never wear near polite society. He wheels a heavy wooden cart stacked with giant clay jars through the dark streets. His 3-man crew follows behind. Building by building, they make their rounds. Residents lower full chamber pots down from windows on ropes. Some people don't even bother. They just dump them straight onto the cobblestones, and the crew has to scrape it up themselves. It wasn't just human waste. Dead dogs, rotting vegetables, fish guts from the market, spoiled oil. Anything that stinks, anything that rots, goes on the cart. By sunrise, they're covered in it. The smell is so deep in their skin it never fully washes out. And here's the rule. They had to be off the main streets before decent people woke up. If a Roman citizen saw them during daylight, they could yell insults, throw rocks, even spit on them. 100% legal. The collectors had to shout a warning call as they walked, so people could get out of their way. Just being near them made you ritually unclean. If you stopped the story right there, you'd think this was the worst job in the world. Miserable, gross, dehumanizing. Must pay nothing, right? Here's where it gets crazy. Stercorarii weren't random day laborers. They weren't slaves. They were part of an official government guild, a collegium, and they held the exclusive city contract to remove all human waste and organic garbage from Rome. This wasn't unskilled work. This was a licensed monopoly. Zero competition. They set the prices. You didn't like it? Too bad. No one else was legally allowed to do this job, and they made money on both ends. Double revenue stream. First, they charged you to pick up the poop. Ground floor shop? Cheap. 6th floor apartment? 5 times more expensive. They had to carry heavy, sloshing pots down rickety stairs. If it spilled, they cleaned it for free. Shop owners, taverns, bathhouses, bakeries all paid monthly fees. Skip payment, and they'd forget your street for a week. Your whole block would reek so bad customers would stop coming. You'd beg them to come back, and you'd pay the late fee. But that's only half the business. Wait till you hear the genius part no one expects. They didn't throw the poop away. They sold it. All that human and animal waste was liquid gold for farmers. Roman agriculture ran entirely on natural fertilizer. No chemicals. Olive groves, vineyards, grain fields outside the city. They begged for this stuff. Pliny the Elder wrote in his Natural History that human manure was one of the most valuable fertilizers for vineyards. It made grapes sweeter. It doubled crop yields. Farmers paid premium prices for a steady supply. The crew even graded it. Human waste was top tier. Donkey manure mid-tier. Cow manure cheap bulk stuff. So every morning, Marcus hauled his cart out of the city, drove straight to the farms, and sold every last bucket. Paid to pick it up. Paid to drop it off. Double revenue. No competition. Guaranteed demand. And that's not even their most profitable side gig. Poop was just their main business. They had an even more profitable side gig, collecting urine. Roman laundries used urine as bleach and fabric softener. The ammonia in it was the best cleaner for white togas, the ultimate symbol of Roman dignity and status. The Stercorarii went door to door collecting urine jugs, sold them by the gallon to laundries, and made more per gallon than they did on poop. Think about that. The crisp white togas worn by senators and judges? They were clean and bright because of the men everyone spit on. Let's run the numbers now, and let's put them in real terms. Your average rank-and-file dung collector made 1,200 to 1,800 sesterces a year. Remember the teacher? 300 to 500? That's 3 to 6 times more money for scooping poop. It's also twice as much as a common soldier, and even more than a low-level city magistrate. Guys like Marcus, the guild leaders, the contractors who owned the carts and held the city license, they pulled in 10,000 sesterces a year or more. That's night-level wealth. Big house on the edge of the city, slaves of his own, fine food, nice furniture, all the luxuries. But he could never enjoy any of it in public. Here's the catch. All that money couldn't buy respect, couldn't buy status, couldn't buy dignity. Stercorarius were part of a class called the infames, the infamous ones. People who had lost all legal and social standing because of their job. Even if you were a millionaire poop baron, you couldn't hold public office. You couldn't vote. You couldn't marry a freeborn Roman citizen. You couldn't enter a temple. You couldn't use the public baths, the center of Roman social life, where every business deal and political conversation happened. You had all the money in the world, but you were locked out of every part of society that mattered. And the wildest part? A lot of wealthy, respectable Roman senators had secret stakes in these waste companies. They invested through middlemen, took their cut of the profits, and never told a soul. Being associated with poop work would end their political career. But the money was too good to pass up. The ultimate proof of their power? The Great Dung Strike of 89 AD. The guild walked off the job for 3 days. They demanded a 30% pay raise and an end to citizens' legal right to insult or attack them. Day 1. The fish market rotted in the sun. The stench was so bad people locked themselves inside. Day 2. Waste piled ankle-deep in apartment alleys. Residents rioted at City Hall. Day 3. The Senate caved. Full pay raise, plus a 20 sesterces fine for anyone who harassed a dung collector. The punchline? 1/3 of the senators voting yes had secret anonymous investments in the Waste Guild. They called the workers scum in public and cashed their dividend checks in private. Everyone hated them. Everyone needed them. And everyone knew it. As gross as hauling poop sounds, it's practically respectable next to our next job. These men didn't deal with waste. They dealt with the dead. And they made even more money. Next up, the Libettinarius, the funeral worker, the undertaker of Rome. Today, funeral directors are respected professionals. In ancient Rome, they were almost untouchable. Even the poop collectors thought they were gross. Even the Stercorarius would cross the street to avoid them. Roman religion was obsessed with purity. Touching a dead body made you ritually unclean. It disqualified you from praying, from entering temples, from public life for days. You had to go through a whole purification ceremony just to be normal again. So who touched the dead? Not priests, not family members usually, the Libettinari. And their job was way more than just carrying coffins. It was a full-service death business. Every single day in Rome, people died in the street. Homeless people, travelers, murder victims, babies left out to die of exposure, gladiators torn apart in the Collegium, prisoners executed in the Forum. If no one picked those bodies up, they rotted. They spread disease. They attracted dogs and rats. That was their job. They patrolled the streets before dawn, loaded corpses onto carts, and hauled them outside the city walls to be buried or burned. Their guild headquarters wasn't inside the city. It was right by the main cemetery, outside the walls. They worshipped Libettina, the goddess of corpses and funerals, a dark, obscure goddess almost no regular Roman would ever pray to. They lived there too, in the cemetery district, surrounded by tombs and cremation pyres, separated from the rest of the living world. They weren't allowed to live inside the city limits. Ordinary people wouldn't even talk to them, wouldn't make eye contact. Parents would pull their kids close and cross to the other side of the street. Sounds like a miserable, low-paying nightmare, right? Wrong. Death is the most reliable business there is. Just like the poop collectors, the Libettinari held an official city monopoly. Exclusive rights to handle all dead bodies in Rome. No competition. They set the prices. You didn't like it? Bury your family member yourself and become ritually unclean forever. Good luck with that. And they had 4 separate income streams. First, the city paid them a per-body fee for every anonymous corpse they picked up off the street. Tax money. Guaranteed income. Rain or shine, plague or no plague, that check came in. Second, regular families paid them for standard funerals. You want your mom buried properly? You pay the Libettinarius. No one else will do it. No bargaining. Third, rich families paid enormous premiums for fancy funerals. Professional mourners, fancy coffins, expensive pyres, big processions. The Libettinari took a huge cut. Rich people tipped lavishly just to make sure everything went perfectly and their family looked good in public. Fourth, the quiet, unspoken money. They took things from the dead, coins placed in the mouth for the underworld, jewelry, rings, bracelets, any small valuables on the body that weren't claimed by the family. It was an unwritten rule. Finders keepers, everyone knew it. No one talked about it, and that's just normal times. Wait till you hear what happened during the plague. Then came the Great Plague of 65 AD. Thousands of people dying every single day. People locked themselves in their houses, too scared to go outside. Entire families dead inside their apartments. No one to bury them. The streets were lined with bodies. Who went in to get them? The Libettinari. They walked through empty streets, day after day, dragging cart after cart of bodies. Every single shift they risked catching the plague and dying themselves. A lot of them did die. The guild lost almost half its workers that year, and the ones who survived? They got absolutely rich. Demand was through the roof. Labor was scarce. They tripled their daily rate overnight. No credit, no exceptions. Cash up front, or the body stays. Rich families sent slaves with bags of money to wait in line at the guild gate. Some waited all day. Men who'd spent their whole lives ordering unclean workers around were now begging them to take their money. One bad plague month earned a libettinarius more than a teacher made in an entire decade. In normal years, an average libettinarius made 2,000 to 3,000 sesterces a year. That's 5 to 10 times a teacher. During plague years, that number doubled or tripled. The guild masters were extremely wealthy. Big houses, slaves, fine wine, expensive art, all the comforts of a rich Roman life, but they could never enjoy any of it in public. They may have been social outcasts, but they had one power no one else had. They could make a powerful family look like fools, and they did exactly that in 72 AD. A wealthy consul's wife died. The family was arrogant. They yelled at the funeral crew, slapped one worker, and refused to pay the standard fee. They said the workers were vultures, and beneath them, the guild walked. They left the body in the house for 3 days. In 30-degree Roman summer heat, the stench got so bad no relatives would come to the wake. Neighbors complained. The family's reputation was falling apart. All of Rome was whispering about it. Finally, the consul's son walked all the way to the cemetery guild headquarters outside the city. He apologized publicly, paid triple the fee, and covered the injured workers' medical bills. Only then did they come back. All of Rome laughed at the noble family. But no one dared insult the libetinarii after that. Everyone knew they'd need them someday. And if that wasn't messed up enough, wait till you hear their other side hustle. They had another open secret: pulling teeth from the dead. Roman nobles paid top dollar for human teeth dentures. A good, healthy tooth sold for 10 sesterces, almost a full day's wage for a laborer. Libetinarii pulled every usable tooth from unclaimed bodies, sold them to dentists, and kept 100% of the profit. The irony is brutal. The fancy dentures in a senator's mouth? They probably came from a homeless man who died in the street, pulled out by a man the senator wouldn't even look at. Even the Stercorarius, the poop men, thought they were better than the libetinarii. At least we deal with waste, not death, they'd say. And here's the brutal truth at the heart of it all. The same Romans who crossed the street to avoid them, who called them unclean, who spat at their feet. The second someone in their family died, they came running. They begged for help. They paid whatever price was asked. And then, as soon as the funeral was over, they'd go back to pretending he didn't exist. It's hypocritical. It's cruel. And it's very, very human. But we still haven't hit the bottom. There was one job so shameful, so reviled, that even the funeral workers wouldn't associate with them. Even the libetinarii thought they were scum. The man who killed for a living, the Carnifex, the public executioner, the headsman, the most hated person in all of Rome. Let's start with this. No free Roman citizen would ever be an executioner. Ever. It was unthinkable. Staining your hands with the blood of another human, even a criminal, meant you lost all honor forever. It was the ultimate disgrace. Roman soldiers wouldn't even do it. Soldiers were citizens. They had honor. Executing common criminals was beneath them. It would tarnish their reputation. So who did the job? Slaves. Freed slaves. Criminals working off their death sentences. Men who had already lost everything. Men who had nothing left to lose. The most famous executioner in early Rome was named Felix. He was a death row inmate originally. He got the job because his axe work was clean, fast, and precise. It was either execute people or be executed. If you became a Carnifex, you ceased to be a real person in the eyes of Roman law. You lost all citizen rights, permanently. You were officially infamous, the lowest of the infamous, the bottom of the barrel. You couldn't live inside the city walls. You had to live in a tiny, run-down house right by the city prison, or outside the city entirely. You had to wear a special red hat so everyone could see you coming and get out of your way. You had to ring a bell as you walked through public, a warning. The executioner is here. Hide your kids. Cross the street. People would literally run from you. Shop owners would close their doors when they saw you coming. What did he do all day? Everything the law required that no one else would touch. He tortured slaves and foreigners to get confessions. Roman law said you couldn't trust a slave's testimony unless it was obtained under torture. He carried out every death sentence. Beheadings, burnings alive, crucifixions, throwing people to the wild animals in the arena. Afterwards, he had to clean up the mess, drag the broken bodies away, dispose of the remains, wash the blood off the stones. He was the hand of Roman justice, and no one wanted to look at that hand. So obviously, this job must pay absolutely nothing, right? They're slaves, they're criminals. They must be forced to do it for free. Wrong. So wrong. The Carnifex got a very nice official salary from the city, straight from the Roman treasury. Base pay? About 3,000 sesterces a year. Minimum. That's 6 times what a teacher made for executing people. And that's just the official, on-the-books salary. The real money was under the table. Bribes. So many bribes, because the Carnifex held one of the most powerful little secrets in Rome. He controlled how you died. There was an open price list. Everyone in Rome knew it. Standard. Normal execution. Official pay only. Quick death. 1 clean beheading. No suffering. 50 sesterce bribe. Full body. No crucifixion. No wild animals. Private execution. 200 sesterces. VIP package. Accidental death before the public execution. No shame. No pain. 500 sesterces and up, sentenced to be beheaded. He could make it quick, 1 clean swing, instant death. Or he could make it last. Bad angle, dull blade, multiple swings, minutes of agony, sentenced to crucifixion. This is where his power really showed. Crucifixion was designed to be slow and painful. People could live for 3 days, dying of exposure, thirst, and exhaustion. But the Carnifex controlled how you were nailed. He could do it so you died within hours, or so you suffered for 3 full days. He could give you a quick mercy kill, or leave you there to rot. When a noble was sentenced to death, the first thing his family did wasn't hire a lawyer. It was send money to the Carnifex, to buy dignity, to buy mercy. From a man they called a monster. Rich nobles who'd fallen from power? They'd pay fortunes for a quick, clean beheading instead of a public, humiliating crucifixion. Even senators, even men who'd spent their whole lives looking down on people like him, suddenly they were on their knees, begging him for mercy, and paying whatever he asked. The most famous example of just how much money an executioner could make. The aftermath of the Spartacus rebellion. After Spartacus lost, the Romans crucified 6,000 of his followers along the Appian Way. 6,000 men, nailed to crosses stretching for 120 miles. A cross every 100 feet, from Rome all the way to Capua. It was meant to be a warning. A display of Roman power. Who do you think did all that work? Felix and his small team of assistants. They worked day and night for weeks, nailing people up, building crosses, disposing of bodies afterwards, and they made an absolute killing. The city paid them a fortune for the job, and the families of the condemned paid them even more, just to make sure their sons or brothers died quickly and didn't suffer. In 1 month, they made more money than a teacher would make in 20 years. Felix did the job for 20 years total. He made over 50,000 sesterces in bribes alone. He bought his freedom. He bought a big villa outside the city. He owned slaves of his own. But he could never set foot inside Rome's city walls. He could never go to a bath, never go to a temple, never marry a free citizen. He was rich, free, and still the lowest man in the empire. Rome loved to brag about its laws, its order, its civilization. It told the whole world that Roman justice was fair and noble and righteous. But who actually enforced that justice? Who did the bloody, brutal work that kept the peace? Who made people afraid to break the law? A slave, a criminal, A man no Roman would even share a drink with. All the glory of Roman law. All the pride of Roman order. It rested on the shoulders of a man everyone pretended didn't exist. Alright, let's rank them from lowest to highest pay, so you can see how it all stacks up. And let's see if your guess from the beginning was right. Number 3. The Stercorarius, the poop collector. 1,200 to 1,800 sesterces a year. 3 to 6 times a teacher's salary. Number 2. The Libidinarius, the funeral worker. 2,000 to 3,000 sesterces a year in normal times, double during plagues. 5 to 10 times a teacher. Number 1. The highest paid and most hated, the Carnifex, the executioner. 3,000 sesterces base salary, plus unlimited under-the-table bribes. Easily 10 to 20 times a teacher's pay. Did you guess right? Go down to the comments and tell me if you nailed it or if you were way off. And before we wrap up, here are 3 quick bonus jobs that also paid way more than they deserved, for equally gross reasons. These are the honorable mentions. First, public toilet attendants. They didn't just clean the toilets, they collected urine in giant vats and sold it to tanners and laundry workers. They made way more than you'd think, and they were also infames. Second, gladiator doctors. They patched up gladiators between fights. Gladiators were super valuable property, so owners paid top dollar for good doctors. But since they worked with slaves and criminals, they were also considered unclean and low status. Third, sewer divers. Men who climbed down into Rome's giant underground sewers to clear clogs and do repairs. Extremely dark, extremely dirty, extremely dangerous. They could drown, get crushed, or get sick from toxic fumes. They were paid extremely well, and no one would ever talk to them. All of them. Hated, shamed, essential. Let's pull it all together for a second. The poop collector who kept the streets clean and the farms fertile. The funeral worker who kept plague away and honored the dead. The executioner who kept the peace and enforced the law. 3 men. 3 jobs. All hated. All shamed. All paid more than the teacher. And all completely irreplaceable. You could remove every teacher, every poet, every philosopher from Rome. The city would keep going. It might be dumber, but it would keep running. If you removed the Stercoraria, the city drowns in its own waste in a week. Disease explodes. Farms fail. If you remove the Libidinari, bodies rot in the streets. Plague wipes out half the population. If you removed the Carnifex, order breaks down. Violence spills into every street. These weren't the villains of Rome. They were the foundation. And this isn't just an ancient story. It's the same story today, isn't it? Every society has invisible workers. The people who pick up your trash, who clean your hospitals, who bury your dead, who work the night shifts no one else wants. We look down on them. We pay them poorly. Way too often. Way worse than they deserve. We pretend their work doesn't matter. We walk past them like they're not there. But we couldn't last a week without them. The most important work in any city is almost never the most respected. The people who keep civilization alive are almost never the ones getting the parades. It was true in ancient Rome. It's true right now. Quick question before you go. If you got paid 10 times your current salary to do one of these 3 jobs, poop collector, funeral worker, or executioner, would you do it? And which one would you pick? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. This is part of our Hidden Workers of History series, where we dig into the jobs no one talks about. The people who built empires and never got credit for it. Next up, the most bizarre job in ancient Egypt that will make you glad you live in the 21st century. You won't want to miss it. So hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you get it the second it comes out. If you learned something new today, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm a ton, and it means the world to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.